What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Shred Show Live. I can't tell you, there are people I meet along my journey in life that just make me think, that make me become a better person. And Jay is one of those guys. When I first met Jay, we had a conversation that was so enlightening that I walked away and I told my wife, I'm like, this guy is one of those people that you meet once in a lifetime that changes your perspective on everything. And Jay continues to do that in the mortgage industry, in his personal life, in everything that he does. And he has recently become the president of Sierra Pacific. And he's about to share some incredible insights, some incredible ideas. And you are not going to want to miss this. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? It is time to shred. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And again, welcome to the Shred Show. I am joined by the one and only Jay Promisco, president of Sierra Pacific Mortgage. And like I mentioned, the first time I met Jay years and years ago, we had a conversation that was truly inspiring and enlightening to me. And he continues to lead by example and is one of those people that when he's in the room, he brightens it. When he's in the room, he's making you a better. He's one of those people that if you're the smartest guy in the room with Jay, you're in the wrong room because Jay is the smartest guy in the room. He's always making it happen. So Jay, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show this morning. How are you?
I'm excellent, Josh. So that was quite an intro, and I'm also incredibly humble. So hearing that is again a hard thing for me. But yeah, your show is amazing. We've had you engaged with our firm for a long time, and when I met you as well. Same type of conversation, by the way, for the rest of the group and the audience. He's a heck of a line dancer too, and he won't ever tell you that on the show. But we saw some every time I'm around Josh, I learn something. So thanks for having me on.
It is an absolute pleasure. And by the way, I want to get to know you a little bit more, but you're wearing a Cubs. I see the jersey. So you a Cubs guy? You a Cubs fan, Jay?
Yeah. Talking about doing hard things, like being a Cubs fan, exceptionally hard for Cubs fans. But yeah, my dad, grandpa, everybody, they're third generation from Chicago and from Franklin Park. And growing up, I had two choices, be a Cubs fan or move out, or be a Bears fan and move out. Those were the options. So now I followed the team for quite some time.
That is awesome. And yeah, that is, it's not the most difficult or the easiest thing being a Cubs fan. So you've gone through some challenges to say the least. But speaking of that, I want to get to know you before we get into our conversation. There's a lot of things I want to discuss, Jay, that you and the team are working on that you share personally. But before we do that, I want people to get to know Jay. For those who maybe don't know your background, you're a veteran of this industry. You've been in the industry a long time and have learned. You've been through the School of Hard Knocks. For those who don't know, share a little bit about how you got started in the industry.
Yeah, it's funny. I graduated college, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, with an animal science degree. And so I had big aspirations to be a veterinarian. But I found that my GPA was in the way. So I got out and I really enjoyed finance. And so I went to work actually at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. Spent some I got all my licenses, became an options trader, worked at E-Trade, and then I went over to Barclays Global. And then my mother had been in the mortgage industry for forever. And she was a sales trainer at Greenpoint Mortgage. And she told me, Jay, you don't have to get up at 4 a.m. You can kind of come sit in our call center and work like 6 hours a day and play a lot of golf. And I thought that was amazing. So I made the switch, jumped in as a call center loan officer. I did play a lot of golf for a lot of years. But being in that call center with a 50-page rate sheet, you learn a whole bunch of things in a hurry. And then that's when I fell in love with business. And then from there, just continued to further my MLO career. And got really, really successful being an MLO, branch manager, regional. And then somebody reached out and said, you need to go to corporate. It's going to be awesome. And here I am 14 years later, leading a firm. So it's been a pretty magic ride for me. I look back, I still think of myself as a loan officer when I'm going through my day. And most days I'm like, are you guys sure you want me in charge of this thing? Because, but yeah, so it just, that School of Hard Knocks, I've had, a million people tell me no. I've screwed up loans. I've done loans well. I've done a lot of things that have worked, and most importantly, I can tell you what not to do more so than I can tell you what to do. So.
Ooh, I want to get into that because there's a lot of things we can unpack there. But as you mentioned, I mean, you have had a career. You learned from being in the trenches, and now, and it's great to see people like yourself in leadership roles. Because, and I'm not to knock anybody here. I have respect for all of our leadership throughout the industry and in other industries as well. But guys like yourself, guys and gals who have gone through what originators currently are facing. People are like, oh, well, Jay was an MLO years and years ago. It's still that, like, yes, things have changed a little bit, but it's still the mentality. It's still a very similar practice to what it was even before things were digitized and we had some of the tools that we do now. It still takes a lot of hard work. And that's actually what I want to start going down this direction with our conversation is, yes, times are challenging. Jay, like you said, you've been through the school of hard knocks. You've seen the ups, you've seen the downs, you've seen the highs, you've seen the lows. And people today, 2024, I heard this mentality. I heard it recently at an event, one of the top exclusive events in the mortgage industry, survive to 25. This mentality of survive to 25. And I'm like, what is this mentality? What are you thinking of? And as you and I were putting this conversation together, you said something that literally resonated with me so deeply that I think people need to hear and think about, which was pick your version of hard. Because this is such a crazy, like one of those ideas that truly can shift your mentality and rock you at the core to where you need to be. So when you say pick your version of hard, tell me about that.
Yeah. I mean, I go through my life that way. I could get up at 4:30 and go to the gym and work out like crazy and be tired in the afternoon, or I could sleep in, be incredibly overweight, not get my work done, be frazzled, and not have a good mindset. That's hard too, right? So I would rather get up early, make sure my body and mind's right first thing. That's hard, but for me, that hard is better than the alternative, which is, being unhealthy or, same thing. Well, you're eating. Well, it's hard to eat right. Well, yeah, but when you don't eat right, there's a hard thing that comes along with that too. And then I look at that with my business too. And I've always thought this, that, I was an athlete and I was not always the best athlete, but I outworked everybody. And so my version of hard was, listen, these guys are bigger, faster, stronger, but I'm going to outwork them every single day. I'm going to spend more time in the gym because that's hard. That's better than being on the field and not performing correctly. And then when you apply that to your business right now as a loan officer, is it harder to be stressed about money 6 months from now? Or is it harder to put a little bit of work on social media and do things that are uncomfortable and go talk to 50 people and have them tell you no? For me, I'd have a whole bunch rather have people tell me no than be financially not secure 6 months from now, right? And as you know, this MLO game, why it's so rewarding to me is there's no time off, and my mind works like if I take vacation, I don't know what to do with myself because I need to work. And as you were an LO, you take a week off and don't call your customers back. Guess what happens? You're 30 days behind, right? So what's harder for you? Is it harder to stay in constant contact with your existing customers, or is it harder to rebuild your business every 60 days? And so I think loan officers that survive to 25 I'll try to not use the words I want to use. It is so counterintuitive to successful people. It makes no sense to just survive. No, you should be thriving in this thing. And while all these other people are surviving, go outwork everybody in the room, do things that are uncomfortable every single day, talk to people you've never met before. A lot of loan officers struggle with this. Well, I'm talking to these 4 people. They send me all my business. I'm like, what happens when they don't? So every day, go meet somebody new. This is a relationship business. This is the more people you know, the more successful you will be. And you can do that by doing uncomfortable, hard things, getting onto social media, even though it's uncomfortable, editing video, failing every single day of your life. It's going to create success down the road. So
it really is. And that is something that I think as mortgage and still a licensed originator. People know I don't originate, but I'm still a licensed originator, still have an active license in the state of Utah. And the mentality of it right now, Jay, and as you talk about, is, are we willing to, do the hard work now? Either way, it's going to be difficult, whether we decide to have our family struggle financially down the road, or whether we're willing to struggle and put in the time. Like my shirt says, show up, hustle, repeat every day. Are you willing to put in the hustle now for the reward later? And now more than that, especially as mortgage professionals, sure, things are still challenging. And I think both you and I, we would not deny that. They're unique. Whether you want to call them challenging, whether you want to call them unique, whatever you want to call them, you and I see opportunity. Because again, if you think it's challenging, others in the industry see it challenging as well. And are they willing to is your competitor willing to put in the work? There is always somebody out there, Jay, that's willing to put in the work. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete, doesn't matter if you're a mortgage professional, real estate professional, sure, doesn't matter. There's always someone willing to put in that work. So the question is are you willing to do it right now? And Jay, for our mortgage community in particular, you mentioned social media, you mentioned a few other things. What does that mean? Like, what do they need to be doing? In your opinion, being that you've been doing this as long as you have, what should their focus be? What should their version of hard look like right now?
Yeah, I think a common mistake for originators, and I could take somebody that's fresh in the business and somebody who's been here 20 years, and I ask them the question, does everybody in your sphere of influence know what you do for a living? Nope. So when you're on Facebook and you find one of your friends bought a house somewhere and you didn't get that loan, that's on you, right? Because there's this reluctance to tell people what we do for a living. And listen, like if you want to get wealthy and you want to own a home, like I'm your guy. And there's nothing wrong to tell your family, your friends, everybody, like for example, everybody on Facebook that you're connected with should know what you do for a living. Step one, right? So, and step two is like, okay, now a lot of loan officers I want to market to everybody. Well, maybe. What are you good at? Well, I let's say for my example, I work out, I go to the gym. So everybody at the gym knows what I do, right? I have my licenses, but I get referrals from there and I send them off, right? So what are you really good at? What are you passionate about? And then make sure everybody in that sphere of influence knows what you do too. And then the hard thing, Josh, which you really get after is social media and being on video. And if you think about the population of people you're marketing to, back to upstream marketing. Well, I want to market to, Gen X. Well, good luck with that. Cause we're all a bunch of crazy people, right? But is it millennial, right? Is it Zoomer, right? So we have this millennial population everybody talks about. The bigger generation beyond that is Zoomers. So you have to pick which way you want to go. Now you can get millennial and Zoomer in the same context, but I can assure you a Zoomer or a millennial isn't going to transact with you unless they can find you online. It's that simple. It's that simple. And that's the hard part for, you take somebody, we have a couple of new loan officers fresh off the street. No bad habits. They have no war wounds, no scars. They haven't had all the no's. And they're out there thriving. They're like 90 days in, they're doing $2 million a month. Why? Because they're like doing videos and they're not very good, but people like them. And so there's this, I hear it all the time. I don't like the way I look on video. I'm like, hey, dude, that's how you look in person. So my video is not that good. Yeah, but I mean, come on.
Bro, I say this all the time. It takes hundreds. I have been doing this for, I've been doing shred media for almost 7 years, but I started creating video back in my early days, back in, 2010 on Facebook. They were terrible. They're horrible, but I didn't care. I was sharing my message. I was connecting. You mentioned this a minute ago. It's about building relationships. Where are relationships right now? People are on social media. People are on Facebook. The Zoomers. People are like, oh, that older demographic. They're not on Facebook. They're not on social media. Yes, they are. They're connecting with their grandkids. They're connecting with their kids. They want to see you there. They want to see you in your Cubs jersey. Those are the type of connections. Right when I saw Jay, everybody knows I'm not a big baseball guy. It's not my thing. But I know Jay is a sports. It's like, a connection right there. I'm a sports guy. Cubs aren't my team, but hey, Jay's a sports guy. So there's a common thing that we have that connects us as human beings. And I think sometimes, Jay, we overlook that as mortgage professionals, as real estate professionals. Little nuances, little things like that is what takes our relationship on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever it is, to an entirely new level. And you actually said something leading up to this as well, and you kind of hinted at it, but I want to quote this because you said this, and I want to have this very like to a T, because how you said it is perfect. It's not about your potential, it's about what you're willing to do. That right now, we all have an amazing amount of potential within us. Every single person listening to this, anybody who watches this on the replay, you are absolutely capable of amazing things, of changing and impacting people's lives. But Jay, at the end of the day, it's about what are you willing to do?
Yeah, and I shamelessly stole that from Mike Tomlin. He's the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's a pretty intense guy, and I'm a pretty intense guy. And you know, who do I follow on social media? Like I'm following like David Goggins and guys like Dave, because I'm trying to get better, right? So I'm trying to get uncomfortable. Like one of the things is like get uncomfortable being uncomfortable, or get comfortable being uncomfortable. Right. And then you're in the sweet spot. But everybody's like, well, I've got all this potential. I've got all these bright ideas, and I have all these things I want to do. Okay, what's step one? Try it. Right. So everybody's got potential. Everybody's got potential. And being an athlete, we had a lot of football players, baseball players that had a lot of potential. But what they didn't have is work ethic and discipline and like this constant desire to get better every day. And what happens a lot, and I do it too, because I do some social media stuff, and I'll do a video. I'm like, man, that really that thing, I stuck up the room with that video. I'm just going to put it on Instagram and see what happens. You know what happens? Like 3 months later, somebody picks it up and thinks it's great, right? So the potential starts with you taking an action that's uncomfortable. Right? I don't want to do it. No, I'm going to do it right now. And what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? Your friends will say your video sucked. Okay. Well, you're still my friend, right? Yeah. Okay. So there is no downside risk to getting yourself out there. Zero. But if you could have all the potential in the world, but nothing's going to happen with that potential unless you take actionable steps to show what your potential is. And that requires your shirt. You got to show up. You gotta take that first step. You gotta jump into the Ethernet and get it on. I mean, it's that simple. Did I lose you? Uh-oh.
Are you back? Did we lose you, Jay?
I'm here. I can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. You came back. Yeah, you just glitched a tiny bit, but now you're back.
That's good. Yeah. So what I finished off was just like your T-shirt. Like you got to show up. You got to take a step. Then you got to take two. Then you got to take three. And then you go from walking to running. It's this loan officer game is a math game, and the more at bats you get, the more chance you're going to get ahead. So
it is 100% true, and we make references to sports or to athletes, but in any industry, whether you're a mortgage professional, real estate professional, sales, whatever industry you're in, the more at bats you have, the more you're going to hit, the more like it is a math game. It's a numbers game. So the more potential, the more things that you are putting out there, and social media, everyone knows I talk about social media all the time. Why I love social media is because it's a medium of one to many. Plus, you mentioned, Jade, something that is so critical, so crucial that I think people overlook. You recorded a video and you're like, man, I don't love it. I don't love the way I sound. I don't like what I said here. You put it out there. People connect with our imperfections. We as human beings, if I want to go see a production, if I want to see a Steven Spielberg or in the next Avatar, I go to the movie theater. If I want to see real, genuine, authentic Jay, I'm going to social media because I know as a human being, I'm imperfect. I know as a human being, if I want to connect with other real people, social media is where it can be done. So it's okay to show up in that way. It's okay to show up genuinely, authentically you. Sure, if you want it to make a little bit better, that's where Shred It comes in, and we can help do some editing, and we can help make it look amazing. But at the same time, like, people like the real. People want to see Jay in his vulnerable moments. People want to see Jay in those times where it's hard, where he's sweating at the gym, where he's like, man, this sucks, but man, it's awesome. Like, those are the type of moments, Jay, that people really connect with each other.
Yeah, it's such a, you think about what we do as a loan officer, it's the most intimate relationship you can have with somebody. As in, your borrowers tell you more things about themselves than they tell their spouse. So this is an intimate relationship. So they want they want to know they can trust you. They want to know what makes you tick. They want to know what you're going to do with their information on the weekend, right? And so I think the personalization is probably the most critical thing. And some of the best loan officers I have, I call them the mayors of their market, right? Because they know everybody and they are vulnerable and out there. Everybody knows what they do for a living, and they're not afraid to be vulnerable, not to be their authentic self. It's Renee Rodriguez calls it a lot. Like, if you try to be this pristine, perfect salesperson, your customer smells commission breath. They're like, this guy's trying to sell me something, and we're not selling anything. Like, I'm trying to create wealth. That's what I'm doing. So.
Yeah. And it's so funny. People do. You and we've been in this industry long enough. We've had the opportunity to coach and to lead people. People can smell that. People can say, oh, they just want the next sale. That's why I think social media needs to be organic. It needs to be natural. It needs to be the real you. Because you mentioned this very early on in our conversation. People build relationships. That's what they want. They want that trust, that confidence, that respect. People often overlook your brand is just an extension of your reputation. We talk about personal brand a lot on social media. Your brand is just an extension of who you really are. That's what it is. That's what it should be. And that's how you should be building it. And if you do so, like you mentioned, Jay, you're going to change people's lives. You're going to help people with wealth management. You're not just going to be a loan officer. You're truly helping them with generational wealth down the road, helping their kids and their kids' kids. So this is something that, if you're willing to put yourself out there, if you're willing to truly reach inside of you and tap into your true potential, it's limitless, Jay.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I'll hit on just one other thing that, as a loan officer, like the hard work and all that kind of stuff, but it is the most rewarding career you can possibly have. And if you back to putting in work, and I'm going to make another sports analogy, but the amount of time, effort, energy that a professional football player, professional baseball player puts in to make sure they can perform, and maybe in professional baseball, let's use that. These guys, they practice 12 months out of the year, probably 6 hours a day minimum. And then they get to the major leagues and maybe they bat 250, which means every 10 at bats, they get 2.5 hits. So they're batting 250 and they're in the bigs. So back to, like, if you apply that to being a loan officer, like if you bat 300 as a loan officer, you're doing good. And if you get 4 out of 10, you're like in the Hall of Fame, right? So it's that repetition, it's getting yourself out there, it's putting in the hard work. And listen, there are loan officers today that are working way more than the loan officers that are watching this today. So you have to decide, well, I want to be as good as that person. Well, I guarantee the producer that's doing 5-6 million a month is working 12 to 14 hours a day. That's how it works. They're not working 2 hours a day. They're doing uncomfortable things every day, and they're doing it more than you are. So,
dude, this is a great correlation into, sports analogy and all, into why the Sierra Pacific mortgage team is continuing to thrive. It's that type of mentality. It's the president who is sharing these things. And that's why having Sierra Pacific is, as a partner, as helping somebody grow your business, is so incredibly important right now. And those are the type of people, those are the type of companies we need to surround ourselves with. Those are the type of mentalities, the leaders that we need to turn to, that are going to help us through these challenging times, these, whatever your version of hard is right now. Having somebody at the helm who can guide you through this, who's been there, who's done that, and who can help you come out through the other side successful, It's so key. So I can't thank you enough, your team at Sierra Pacific, all that you guys are working on, because Jay, you guys are doing some big things right now in the industry.
Yeah, we're excited. I mean, again, we're humble. We know hard work pays off. At Housing Wire, I was in front of the whole group and I said, listen, I don't care what you guys do. I can assure you I'll be on the stage next year at this time because I'm willing to put in the work now. Right. And there is no hiding in the cave and waiting for the sun to come out. Like whether it's dark or light outside, we're going to be doing the work. And like I said, you think about, everybody's been pretty bummed out about the last 2 years or whatever, but think about the last 20 years of your career. This is a phenomenal business. So we had like even 09, like everybody's worried about 07 and 08. What happened in 09 and 2010? It's phenomenal. 11, 12, even better. So if you look at a 15 year, even a 10-year career, back to batting averages, dude, we're batting 700, 700 right now. So a couple bad years. If you were smart, I mean, again, back to fiscal responsibility and back to how I live my life. So even if you got it, doesn't mean you need to spend it. Right. And so when hard times come, you're prepared for it and you're not worried about it. And this too shall pass, but only for those that are willing to put in the work now.
Boom. That is our mic drop moment, ladies and gentlemen. It will only happen if you're willing to put in the work now. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been such a brilliant conversation. This is why I love surrounding myself and having amazing friends and leaders in my corner like Jay and the entire team over at Sierra Pacific. Jay, I cannot thank you enough. This has been absolutely brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, share this with your team. Share this entire conversation. Go out there and learn from what Jay said. Be willing to put yourself out there. Be willing to tap into your potential and be willing to put in the work right now. Jay, you are absolutely brilliant, my friend. I cannot thank you enough for shredding with us today.
Hey, thanks, Josh. And by the way, speaking of doing hard things, Josh is going on an adventure here very shortly. It's going to be incredibly hard, but incredibly rewarding. So we're proud of you, man. So
thank you so much, my friend. I'm looking forward to sharing the journey with everybody here. And again, I cannot thank you enough for the friend that you are, the leader that you are, and how you continue to inspire and lead by example. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been an amazing conversation. As always, we appreciate you. We love you. Now we want all of you to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See ya.